All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our launch day event. We're really excited to see you all here, and it's been a really exciting day so far. So we have a number of things in store for this agenda, for the agenda for this call. We're going to take basically 30 minutes to sort of answer questions from you guys, give some more details on what we've been doing for the past few months, kind of what the fundraise has been, what the goals of the update are, some of the upcoming roadmap items, if there will not be an iOS app, that kind of thing. So to jump into it, we have a bunch of the team here, and we all wanted to briefly introduce ourselves. So maybe let's just sort of round robin this. So first, I'm Martin, currently kind of CEO and one of the software engineers on the team. Mike?
Hey guys, I'm Moritz, co-founder of Remnode,
Oh, okay.
and sorry, and yeah, also a software engineer.
I'm Mike. I work in marketing.
Maddie?
What's up, everyone? I'm Maddie. I am also marketing, and I do most of the content on YouTube. You've probably heard my voice before, seen my face. Happy to start making some more for you guys too in the future.
Kartik?
Hello, you must all probably know me from the communities, and I'm taking charge of everything with the user front and trying to help make Remnode a better user-centric product.
Hannes?
Hey, I'm Hannes. I'm a software engineer here at Remnode, and my main focus after the redesign is going to be everything regarding extensibility, custom CSS plugins, import, export, and that kind of stuff.
I'm very excited about that. Dennis?
Hey guys, I joined Remnode as an engineer some time ago, and I'm very excited, and I feel like this is just the beginning.
Alex?
Hey, Alex here, software engineer at Gendic company like 3 months ago, and it's been crazy. Yeah, great to be here.
And last on my screen, but definitely not least, Andreas.
Hi guys, I'm Andres, the UI UX designer of the team. I've been in charge of mostly all the super cool redesign updates we have today. So yeah, it's been crazy.
Awesome. So cool. That's sort of the core team that we have here. A few to make the call, but that's sort of the core group. Yeah, so now we just wanted to sort of go through some of the stuff that we've already announced before, but also give a lot more sort of details on the backstory and why we made certain decisions, and also get a chance to take questions from you guys live. So we'll all be sort of reading the chat as we're speaking. We sort of have a doc on the back end where we're sort of making sure we're keeping track of questions so we can get them answered for you. And to kick things off, Moritz is going to be talking a bit about the fundraise.
Yeah, so looking forward to give you more information about kind of this financing round we raised, and yeah, just a few sort of facts for the people of you who are not so familiar with this concept. So we basically sold like a small portion of the company to get some financing, and yeah, to just accelerate this journey we are on and hire lots of great people, or a few selected engineers to improve the product, build more features, make it more stable, expand it, and yeah, this will help us just grow faster and build a better product. And yeah, in total we raised $2.8 million, and yeah, amongst others from General Catalyst, which is a US VC firm.
Yeah. Cool. So all that money is just going to be flowing right back into hiring more people to sort of grow the team and thus grow the product. The entire goal of all this, honestly, is just to get more resources to build a better product so that we can all sort of get smarter. Maybe to sort of briefly talk about why we're even here, I wanted to sort of briefly share, or at least why I'm here, we all sort of different backgrounds. I wanted to briefly share from my end sort of what got me interested in this. So my personal sort of journey with Remnote began a few years ago when I was still an undergraduate studying computer science. And I really enjoyed the learning process and the other projects that I was working on, but in a sense, it all felt very fake in that I was learning material in classes and temporarily gaining some mastery of what I was learning, but all of that was sort of just disintegrating in the following months after the semester. And that's not what learning is, that's not what learning should be, and I wanted a more effective way to sort of remember that knowledge long-term and turn it into something that I could actually leverage in both my personal and professional life. So that's sort of what the initial spark was. And then I began by trying to look into the literature and see what people had already developed for solving these problems. And I found that there was a lot of both really interesting techniques as well as really interesting tools. So this included sort of space repetition and Anki. This also included various knowledge management techniques like Zettelkasten, more things like mnemonics and the Memex and so on. And as I continued to learn about these techniques as well as try the existing tools, I started to notice more and more of a disconnect in that there were powerful techniques, but not great tools that let me sort of leverage them in the way that I wanted to. So that's what personally got me into this. From there, I began to sort of play around with some of the code and start to grow things. And that's where some of the original core ideas behind Remnote emerged. Then fast forward to 2020, I met up with Moritz, who had been working on some similar stuff at the time. We realized that we had a lot of shared vision as well as shared interest, and we began working on scaling up the product and trying to make it understandable and usable by a wider range. That's also the point at which we started to sort of put the product out there. Met a lot of you guys that are here now, so thanks for all of that. And sort of have since continued to scale from there. A lot of you also know that we sort of came out of beta this past January, launched our initial V1, and then over the past few months, I've been very heads down working on this update. So that's sort of where we started. And as we continue to go forward, we really want to make sure that we continue to focus on those core problems that we set out to solve originally. So as much as possible, we're trying to make sure that decisions in the product are made from the perspective of these two core questions. The first being, if it's for a learning feature, will it enable you guys as our users to more rapidly sort of gain long-term mastery of what you're learning? So we're really trying to make sure that we're long-term learning focused, that the time that you're investing in Remnote or taking notes is something that really is meaningful to you in your life. There are definitely shorter term objectives that are important as well, like doing well on tests or doing well in a certain presentation or that kind of thing. And we do care about those as well, but we want to make sure that we avoid some of the traps of over-focusing on these metrics. And then the second heuristic is very similar, just from the thinking perspective. We want to make sure that we're building features that enable you to organize your knowledge well for the long term, leverage that in your day-to-day brainstorming and creativity, and really just become more effective at whatever problems you're trying to solve. And from these two heuristics, we've basically broken down the next goals and our sort of upcoming roadmap into three main categories. So the first of these categories is about the learning side of things. At our core, we are a learning tool. We started with the space repetition feature, and we've sort of grown out around that nugget. And as I mentioned, we really want to make sure that we are building features that focus on your long-term knowledge retention. So there's a few things that I am, and I think the team as well, are particularly excited about here. So the first one is making sure that our space repetition is as effective as it can be. Some of this is basically getting to a point where more of the existing research is better integrated into Remnote. So this involves things like better handling leeches, better handling when you fall into ease hell or when you're struggling with some certain difficult cards. There's various research on different schedulers that I'm excited to explore more in, and that's sort of the first category of this. But there's also a lot that we think that we can sort of uniquely leverage on Remnote because your flashcards and notes are connected. For example, we already tried to do a bit of this in terms of clustering together similar cards in your queue so that you have less context switching as you move around. But we want to do a lot more than that. We want to figure out what you care about right now, prioritize that in your queue, and sort of minimize as much friction in your process of studying as we can. The second part of this for the learning side of things is that actually not everything needs to go into your flashcards in your brain. A lot of my knowledge is sort of in RemNote as something that's externalized for me. The core sort of skeleton of my knowledge is the flashcards that form the sort of core skeleton. But when I want to get something that's outside of the skeleton, it's just a quick control POA, and I can immediately bring it up. So there's a lot of sort of feature level things that are core to that goal. The first is trying to make sure that search is as instant as possible. The second is trying to make sure that flashcards and knowledge can sort of be easily transferred between formats. We already make that pretty fluid, but we think there's more we can do there. And we really just want to make it an easy choice where whenever you learn anything, you put it in RemNote, and then from there you can decide if you want to turn it into a flashcard to keep it in your brain or leave it in your extended brain in the tool. And then the third main thing that I'm pretty excited about in the learning category are these sort of like multimodal learning experiences. And the way that I'd like to think about this, at least, is if you're learning some specific type of content, you want to practice and interact with that content in the same way that you'll think about it in the real world. So for example, if you're studying a chess puzzle, you don't really want to think through it with the chess notation. You want to go through and directly interact with the chessboard and play with it there. Or if you're studying some chemical reaction, you might want to see the steps unfurl one by one. If you're visualizing some sort of physical object or a 3D model, you hopefully want to be able to sort of directly manipulate that and interact with that. And really, we want to try to take the core insights of the flashcard paradigm, namely the spaced repetition side of things, the active recall of being able to focus on a specific piece of information and really practice retrieving it, certain desirable difficulties inherent to the flashcard format, and transfer that to other modalities as well. So that's the first set of things that we're excited about in the learning category. Feature level, there's hopefully a variety of things that were communicated there in terms of more advanced spaced repetition schedulers, these multimodal learning experiences, which will largely be supported through our extension system, better search and interaction between flashcards and your knowledge base, and all these sort of lower level features that we need to make these higher level categories possible. The next sort of category here is the thinking side of things. And it's really important to us that your thinking remains connected to your knowledge. There's no point in learning if you're not using it at some point later on. And again, there's a number of things that I think are really exciting here. The first is kind of just the fundamentals. We really want to make sure that the core RemNote editor is super fast, easy to work with, as bug-free as possible, and that it just feels like an extension of your brain. I think that we made a pretty good leap in this update. There's really quite a lot that went on behind the scenes to make it happen, but there's definitely more that we need to do. So there again, that'll be continued push to make every interaction sort of predictable and make your key land in the right place, make the search faster, make it easier to manipulate different kind of nodes. We've improved images, low tech, but we want to keep on doing this for the other kind of nodes as well and further improve it there too. The next side of this that I'm pretty excited about is finding ways to bake more conventions and algorithms for thought into the way that you structure knowledge in RemNote. Right now, we do this in a few ways. So the first is with the concept descriptor framework, where you can sort of break down knowledge and sort of set yourself up in a way that's easily maintainable far in the future. But we want to do a lot more here. For example, I'd love to be able to do something as simple as pull up a random note that I was journaling about and go and practice more on that note. There is also something that's also something that I sort of want to be integrated into the queue, where my daily practice schedule also involves sort of elaborating on my knowledge. I want better ways to have the tool find different related pieces of knowledge, bring them together, and then have me sort of think about them and synthesize new knowledge from them. And in terms of what this translates to into features, there's a lot that we're trying to figure out with the extensions framework to allow you to sort of build your own algorithms on top of this, as well as support a variety of templates that help you structure knowledge in the way that you want to. To just keep going here, Another thing that I'm super excited about from the thinking side is just other ways to interact with your knowledge. So tables are definitely something that we're excited about, highly requested, as well as other modalities such as drawing or sort of freehand notes, mind maps, and improved graph view, all these different ways of thinking about knowledge in the way that makes the most sense for it. And then finally, just to mention again, we do want to make sure that we care about the sort of long tail of thinking activities, all the different pieces of thinking that you sort of go through throughout the day. We want to make sure that they're all sort of supported by Remnote, no matter what you're working on. And then the final main thing that I'll mention here is that learning and thinking, of course, doesn't happen in isolation. We learn in a classroom frequently. We think and then collaborate with others. And we want to make that collaboration a core part of Remnote as well. Now, that's not saying that we're pivoting or anything, or that this is our core focus. Fundamentally, we are your thinking workspace. We are designed for the individual, but we want to make it easy for you to take the thoughts that you've generated, interface them with those of others, as well as take thoughts that others have generated and bring them into your workspace. So the first thing that we've been building here are shared knowledge bases. These have actually been in sort of alpha. We've been testing them internally for the past few months. And some of you have been testing them as well in the book reading group. And we really want to make this polished, make sure that we have real-time collaboration, fix a bunch of the sort of syncing inconsistencies in the process, and make this sort of a robust way to share and aggregate knowledge in groups. And then on the learning side, we want to make it easy for you to take your knowledge and give that to others, either in your local community, such as in your classroom or your school or your reading group, wherever you study, as well as go and find the best resource online or the best resource available for any piece of content and go and practice that. So we want to do this in a way that's deeply integrated with the rest of Remnote, of course. We're not really ready to share many details here, but this is something that we're kind of thinking deeply about internally. So those are the three main categories of things that we have been focusing on internally. This update was obviously very focused on the sort of polish, making sure that your experience is enjoyable and bug-free and easy to understand in Remnote in general. After this, we're going to be trying to return to a normal update schedule. Taking this pause to really go and think through things deeply from first principles gave us a lot of flexibility and made us go faster overall. I strongly believe that. So we definitely were able to release a lot more in this update than if we had been doing monthly updates. But I do know that that caused a lot of friction for you guys, and I do think that we could have communicated that better. So thank you for your support, I guess is what I'm trying to say as we've continued there. So let me maybe take a pause there, make sure that we can answer any questions that have appeared in the chat. Let's see.
While we are looking at those questions, maybe I can also briefly mention 2 cents more regarding this fundraising, where I kind of overread this agenda point, where I just wanted to mention like who are those investors we brought on and kind of why we think they're valuable. So besides this one institutional investor I mentioned, January Catalyst, we also have some like really great angels, which are individuals investing in a company brought on. So one of them is Ankur Nagpal, who is the founder of Teachable.com, which is a really great online course platform. So he has like deep expertise in education technology and building platforms, consumer software. Then there's Jude Gomelia, who has built Golden.com, or is the founder of Golden.com, which is, you can kind of think of it like as a private Wikipedia. So in that sense, he has great expertise in building like knowledge heavy applications or apps that sort of thrive through knowledge. And then there's also Aaron Bali. So those like are all like very education technology related. And Aaron Bali is the founder and a co-founder of Udemy. So I guess you all know Udemy, which is a great company. I myself done like probably 4 Udemy courses, and yeah, it's great to have those on and have them support us, and also you guys in this process yeah, just wanted to mention it.
Yeah. So I've been trying to find questions in the chat. So the first one is about the Android app that is out, but there's a lot of polish that we want to add there. I'll mention some more roadmap items in a second. Second, there's a question about an image occlusion bug. We've seen that there's some issue in Mac, and that fix will be coming out right after this call. So sorry about that. Our test missed it, but we'll get it fixed promptly. Cool. Okay, so I don't see any other immediate questions coming in, so just to continue. So in terms of more specific roadmap items, we know that it is important for you guys to understand what we're building internally. At the same time, we want to make sure that we build things right. So for example, we don't want to pre-commit to things before we know the right way to do them, or before we're really ready to get them built. That said, there is a few things that we're sort of ready to publicly commit to today, to coming out in the soon near future. So the first thing is the iPhone app. There's two sides of this. So the first is just getting it to the same point as the Android app, which already I think is pretty powerful. You can do your queue on there. You can use your thought queue. I use those features daily at least. That said, there's a lot that we want to improve on it. So the first is just making sure that all the components work well on the mobile sort of rectangle. We've done some of that in this update. All the menus, for example, respond nicely and reactively. The sort of queue and document table and such all got reskinned, obviously, and we have cleaned up some editor stuff. But much of this is still remaining for an upcoming phase. So in terms of the level that we're trying to get the app to, we are not going to be able to give you the same experience as desktop. There are just some limitations there from the technical side. And you also don't necessarily want the same experience, we think, due to the different form factor. But we do want to get you a lot closer. So we're going to make search easier to use. This update actually already did the first half of that, but we'll do more. We're going to enable the sort of reference linking, portals, tags, all the different ways to organize RAM, better ways to sort of add images, and as well as deeper integrations into your OS itself, such as sending knowledge directly to the app from elsewhere, storing links, and all those sort of niceties that let you think of this as, think of Remnote as the place that you can just throw any knowledge that you want to interface with. So that's going to be a big project for us, and we're definitely excited about that internally. The next thing here is our extensibility platform. So we do have the sort of V0 or V1, whatever you want to call it, available here right now. And we have a number of CSS wizards and plugin wizards, some of whom we've stolen from the community and brought onto the team, building things on this platform. But we really want to do a lot more. I've mentioned some of these sort of before in terms of building better ways to integrate this with your queue and develop different ways to better learn different kinds of knowledge. And we also want to enable you to build more powerful features, such as injecting entire panes or better ways to send knowledge into Remnote. So this is, again, something that's sort of more in the earlier phase. We've been collecting a bunch of great feedback on the current plugin system on the forum for a while now, and we have been sort of carefully reading through that. But this is sort of the second thing to expect in the coming months, coming quarters. So the third item that we're focused on is really making Remnote as fast and frictionless as possible from your keyboard. So this update has the first step towards that from the Omnibar, where you can now trigger basically any command in Remnote just by pressing Control/. But we want to do more there. There are definitely still some places where the sort of focus drifts away from the editor and you have to click to restore, or where your sort of pointer doesn't go directly where you expect it to, or just certain things that we think could be even faster from a keyboard perspective. So that's the third thing. Fourth is a variety of queue upgrades. One that I'm particularly excited about is better ways to cluster groups of cards to sort of bring them together in your queue. There's been a lot of discussion on the forum here about different ideas with how to achieve this, both from grouping closes as well as using a power up to organize blocks of RAM, as well as sort of adding entirely new first-class features. What I'll say now is that we're trying to design this in a easy way, in a way that's easy to understand and that fits with the existing system. Also a semi-automated way, and that's another sort of thing that we're excited about. The other half of those 2 upgrades are the things that I was mentioning before in terms of the better space repetition, customization, and sort of power user type features. Then the 5th sort of short-term thing that we want to commit to mention is a revamped dark mode. So that's something that we've been working on as basically part of this redesign. Definitely sort of a small thing, but something that makes the app feel much nicer and sort of to use when you're studying late at night. So those are some of the sort of short-term things that we're trying to commit to for the coming months. There's obviously a lot more that we're working on behind the scenes, but as mentioned, if we build something, we don't feel that it's as perfect as we want it to be, then we're going to take some more time to build that. So expect those releases as well as some other surprises to come out. Longer term, there's also a few things that I wanted to mention. So the first was real-time collaboration as well as these sort of shared knowledge bases. That is something that we've been working on internally. I think that we're getting to a good point on it, but we're going to make sure we do it right. The second are these tables and drawing modes and different ways to organize your knowledge. Again, that's something that will take some time, but that we think that we kind of have almost uniquely the perfect foundation for from the graph view and the underlying graph data structure that powers Remnote. And then the third sort of longer term thing that I'll mention are better ways to query and search your knowledge. Right now, we think that we make it very easy to get knowledge into Remnote, to then sync that knowledge with your brain with flashcards. And then we want to make it even easier for you to extract that knowledge using these more advanced searching features, in addition to the existing backlinks and structure that already helps here. So those are some roadmap items. We're also going to sort of put this in writing, add a page in the help database to keep you guys better in sync on what we're working with on the team. But just as a word of warning, do expect some surprises with various updates. We're going to release things as soon as we feel happy with them. We're going to wait to release things if we're not happy with them. And overall, we're just spending all of our resources trying to optimize for how can we build the best sort of learning and thinking tool and sort of remaining very product focused there. So let's check again if there's some questions there. So first was a question about custom keystrokes for non-English keyboards. So we do have the ability to customize all the keyboard shortcuts in Remnote. If you click in the help sort of question mark in the bottom right, you can bring up that panel and then click the gear in the top right to customize those. It's definitely possible that I misunderstood that question. So if so, I'll make sure to sort of follow up about that afterwards, and we'll make sure that's included in our keyboard revamping. There are definitely some issues with the default keyboard shortcuts on non-English keyboards that we're aware of, as well as other sort of keyboard layouts like the Qt Z variant, and we're trying to fix those. There was a question about the iOS app, but I think it was covered. Let's see. Moritz, there was a question about, or actually we can get into that later. Okay, so maybe we're going to have a longer Q&A session at the end, but maybe let's get going here. We wanted to next give some insights on the background with some of the design changes that we've made in this update. So different people are going to, on the team, are going to sort of talk through each of these. And we're going to start off with the sort of concept and descriptor UX. So as you guys have seen, we sort of significantly changed the delimiters that you use to create cards. So there were quite a number of issues with the previous system that we've tried to pin down here. So the first was the sort of requirement that you had to use the uppercase and lowercase conventions for concepts and descriptors. This was originally designed to help you bring structure to your knowledge. We do want to make sure that we guide you to a way that you can use Remnote where you're not sort of shooting yourself in the foot, in that you're not building some cards that will temporarily be powerful for you, but not powerful in the future. And while that feature was originally designed to do that, we found that it caused more problems than it was worth for both our international community as well as English-speaking users who just didn't want to use the format. So we went through quite a few iterations with how to change this here. There were times when we were considering other triggers like a double question mark or other symbols on your keyboard, as well as other variations. And ultimately, we discovered that there were sort of two core things here with the delimiters that we wanted to make clear to all users. So the first core thing was the practice direction. We want to make it really clear that when you type a delimiter, a card has been created and it's testing you from this question to go to this answer. And this new arrow delimiter setup that we have in user testing seems to make that much clearer. You don't need to really understand what the double colons are or the double what the double colons are from the old system. And we also just display the arrow format directly on the screen for you. Then the second thing that we wanted to make sure was that we didn't break any of the existing workflows that you have with your concept and descriptor cards. So we took care there to maintain the double semicolon. We've introduced the new, to maintain the double colon, we've introduced the new semicolon for the descriptors. And it definitely took us some time to get used to, as well as seemed to take users a bit of time to get used to in user testing, but ultimately seemed just as fast and much clearer for everyone for how to quickly create cards of different types. And then the final thing we did was just switch to the double right arrow as the default for new users or users who don't want to use the concept descriptor framework. We definitely don't want to sort of force any framework onto you, and we just want to sort of make sure that you're using Remnote in the most effective way for yourself long term. And what we heard from you guys is that roughly, literally about half of you likes the concept descriptor framework, and the other half of you prefer to either use questions or closes or one of these formats. So we tried to make that easier in this update. So that was sort of the core reasoning behind the concept descriptor framework changes. We've also done some other stuff like add a button to generate them on mobile, and there'll be more coming there as well. But yeah, so I'm trying to see if there's any questions about that. I think not yet. We can maybe come back to that afterwards. So next, Moritz is going to talk about the branding and new logo. We need to fix a small issue with the chat, so it might take like 10 seconds of downtime, but we will be right back.
Awesome. Yeah, so as you've seen the new logo and thought about it, you might have seen that there's a tree in there. So that's definitely something we wanted to continue, because we really like this metaphor of the learning tree, where the branches sort of are like resemble the branches you create while learning. You're branching out into new areas, topics, and you're just expanding your horizon basically. And yeah, then we picked this new color because it kind of symbolizes some novelty. It's not like the simple blue you see every day, but it's actually like a blue mixed with purple. So yeah, we found that was a great choice. Also shout out to Unfold, who designed this logo, and yeah, great supporters. What else can you say? And yeah, I think Andres can say much more about the actual like design system, kind of how we try to like what kind of approach we take there. But yeah, the logo is there's some elements of a brain also. When you see like the shape, it's kind of like the shape of a brain. And if you haven't seen it, there's also a writing utility in there. Yeah, I leave it up to the audience to notice that. But yeah, I'd say it's interesting, and yeah, that's it from my side.
Cool. Okay. Then let's keep going with the next discussion here. which is Andreas just talking about the general new design aesthetic and goals for the UI language in the product going forward.
Yeah, so our first goal with this redesign was to make the product simpler. During the last couple of months, we noticed that the app was really powerful, but it didn't feel, easy to use. Features were hard to understand, and things on the long term were really complex. So our goal was to make sure that it was super easy for you to achieve flow. And to do that, we needed to make our product as simple as possible so that anyone new to the product could, become a power user as fast as possible, and that regular or power users could be more efficient than they already were without breaking their workflows, right? So one of the first and most important changes we did, although this doesn't seem that important, was changing the font. Fonts are, well, the internet's language, right? So we switched to InterUI, a typography optimized for web browsing, and we also made it bigger so that you could read your notes from a larger distance, and you could just study and be happy with that. Another important change we did was removing the bottom toolbar from the UI, because that was just polluting the product and stopping you from getting into the real things you care about, right? So we removed that and we switched that to a toolbar that only appears when you highlight text. You can use that to bold, use italics, or just change highlight formatting. Another important change we did, this is more of an internal thing, but we changed the color palette we use to make sure that everyone in the world with every single type of disabilities or cultural backgrounds can use and understand the product more effectively. We switched to this Remnode new blur pool color that's a little bit more calming and relaxed and doesn't feel too corporate like the one we had before. Yeah, and we also revamped a couple of things like the slash menu that now has a better ability to add or change elements. And we introduced this new omnibar that is created to, just enable you to have another layer of abilities in your app to, add elements, change text, and just go from one side to the other.
Yeah, I know that every little pixel takes a while to fix, but so past that now, and we're really pleased internally that you guys seem to be liking it as well. Cool. So then the next thing we wanted to cover here was the new lightweight portals. This was another thing that took a sort of number of iterations and a lot of feedback, and Kartik is going to be talking about that a bit.
Hey everyone. So one of the major pieces of Remnode to me personally, and from what we've heard from the community, was that we have this amazing translution engine through portals, which allows users to pull in information from various parts of the knowledge base, and then you can play around with it, and you can actually interact with it on any document that you're working on. And the major high-level point that helped here was that you don't have to really rely on thinking about where a piece of information has to go, and rather you should be focusing upon getting that information down, working on it, and then learning and trying to internalize it, and worry much less about the whole organization of it. And because of all this, portals seem like a really important thing that we should be redesigning, and the old version of it just felt like too heavy for the UI, and that was a constant pain point that the users spoke about, and we wanted to fix that. And with this new update, now portals are designed to be as unobtrusive as possible. They are now completely aligned with the regular bullets, and you will probably never notice that there is information coming from another part of the knowledge base until you actually focus on it. And we came to this after a lot of iterations. We had really different ideologies of how portals should function, should look like, and we had a lot of heated debates. And then after all that, we decided, okay, this looks the neatest for now. Let us know how you feel. And we're also trying to improve the whole UX around it, like jumping into portals and jumping out of them. And we now have a new ability to create portals just like how you would create a reference or a tag. So play around with it and let us know what you feel about it. And this is just the beginning. Like just like everything else with Remnant.
Cool, thanks. And then the final thing we wanted to chat about here in terms of the update overview was the Omnibar. We did mention this a bit earlier as well. The whole goal with the Omnibar is to enable better streamlined keyboard navigation throughout the tool. We want Remnant to work at the speed of thought, is the sort of internal way that we phrase it. And this both involves navigating on different parts of the app, batch editing rem, activating any feature, and really just manipulating things in the way that you want. That was sort of the first main goal. And the second was to make it easier to both discover and trigger different commands. So we've, of course, maintained the existing keyboard shortcut system, and that's going to be something that we continue to support and build on, of course. But the Omnibar also provides a quick way to activate any command without having to memorize the keyboard shortcut. So in a sense, this felt kind of similar to that earlier principle. Some stuff you want to memorize, some stuff you want to externalize. Here you can just now type /red, and you don't need to sort of worry about it. The tool will remember it for you. So those are just sort of 5 points of the update. We did write a rather long changelog, so congrats to those of you who slogged through reading that. If the rest of you are interested, definitely go check that out on the site. And we're nearing the end here. So we had scheduled this for 30 minutes and we're already a bit over time, but we're just going to finish up with more FAQs. So definitely seeing more questions in the chat about the iOS app that's coming. We know you guys care a lot about that. Android app with backlinks also mentioned a little bit before that we've done sort of the first, quarter of the mobile redesign in this update, but there's a lot more that we're building in terms of first-class mobile components, sort of making them fit well within the screen, as well as enabling those different search and linking modalities on the app. I see a question about where the settings option is went. So you can either access that from the Omnibar. I would encourage you to say that if you ever can't find anything within Remnote, just press Control/, bring up the Omnibar and search for it. You can actually even search for and toggle settings within the Omnibar itself now. So Control/dark mode works, for example, or you can just do Control/settings. So that's the first way that you can open it. If you want to access it from your mouse, you can just click on your name in the top left and then click on settings from that pop-up there.
Yeah, I also see the question, how do you create mind maps? So unfortunately, like this exact function is right now not existing yet, but we have a graph view where you can achieve something similar. So just type our domain remnote.com/graph. You can also access that via the document menu on the top right of each of the documents. And yeah, feel free to play around with that if you haven't seen this this feature.
We've also seen, so we had also questions, we had collected some questions beforehand. We had seen a number of sort of questions about the direction of the graph view there as well, if we're going to upgrade it. And I wanted to shed some light on that. So the first thing is that we kind of view the graph view almost as an educational tool. The graph view makes it really clear that you should kind of think about Remnote from the perspective that everything is connected and that part of your core activity is connecting together different rem. The second equally useful purpose of the graph view, in at least my opinion, is to enable fast exploration among your backlinks. So you can, in the current iteration, go and click on a bullet or like alt-click on it to expand it, navigate around your view that way, and find new insights that you hadn't found before. Now, that said, the graph view is definitely not in its final state. We want to both add a bunch to it in terms of honestly just making it more aesthetic, as well as adding better features. So that's the first side of things. And the second part is that this drawing feature that we've been sort of mentioning about coming later down the line will take some of the workflows that currently make sense in the graph view, such as drawing arrows between things or sort of dragging them around, and we'll try to make that kind of free-form canvas type of thinking work well in that drawing mode. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's something that we'll care about, a bit of a longer-term project, but we are working on it. there's a question here about how one invests in Remnode. So that's unfortunately not directly an option at this time, but there are a lot of ways that you can support us, and we do appreciate all that. So first is if you want our pro features and sort of have the financial capacity to, obviously getting a subscription or lifelong learners is directly what fuels our growth. Every dollar just goes back into sort of hiring more people. You can see that the team has more than doubled since the last call, and it will continue to do so. That's the first thing. And then the second is just, second way is kind of giving us feedback and suggestions. We do read that carefully, and that's very useful. And then the third is just helping us grow, sharing Remnode with your friends. There was another question about the roadmap. I think that was also probably missed earlier, but we did discuss that. So feel free to look at the sort of recording of this video, and we'll also be releasing a more sort of concise version of it in our help database. Let's see. So I see we got a number of questions ahead of time about better support for different payment methods. We are aware that this is an issue for international users especially, and it's something that we've been trying to fix. The immediate next thing that we're trying to activate there is Alipay for our Chinese community. We've been working with Stripe on that. It'll take a little bit longer, but it's something that's coming out. We obviously want to make it easy for you to use our pro features. What else? So there's a question here about data security. So that is priority number 0 for us, priority number 1, whatever you want to call it. We want you to have complete confidence in your notes in Remnode. There's a number of precautions that we take there. First, we've locked on as much as possible any access to our production database. So it's all sort of encrypted at rest. This is different than having sort of personal encryption keys, so just something to be open and about and aware of. And there are definitely sort of subtleties here that I'm glad that our community cares about. What else to mention? So the sort of different components to the security are sort of physical security with getting access to either our machines or sort of passwords that can get into the tool, sort of security on the team with sort of spoofing, security in the code with vulnerabilities that could leak access. And we take each of these pretty seriously. If you do have any concerns about any of those 3 categories, we do make our completely offline local desktop app available as well. So if there's something super confidential, then that would be a place for it where you could have the utmost confidence. Obviously, again, security is priority 0 for us for the main app as well. So I wouldn't be overly concerned because we try to take care of that concern for you in the team. What else? There are other features like sort of REM level or knowledge base level encryption that we've explored. Definitely don't know if that'll fit into the future roadmap or not, but it is something that would be exciting for us. We really don't want your data in a sense. Your data is a sort of a responsibility for us, doesn't really give us any value. So we try to make sure that's as careful as possible. So there was a question about our sort of financial sustainability. I think what I'll say is things are going pretty well there. I'm really happy to be supported by you guys. Again, every dollar just sort of goes back into hiring more people and making the tool better. And obviously this fundraising round gives us a lot of time to really focus on sort of long-term thinking and make sure that things are as good as possible. There was also a question about our hiring process. So we're very careful about who we bring onto the team. We set a pretty high bar, as I imagine you've been able to tell. That's the sort of first reason that we've been sort of going slowly and steadily with it. That said, we are trying to aggressively hire. If you know someone great, if you're personally excited about what we're trying to build here, please do apply. We'd love to talk to you, yeah. There's some questions about our internals, such as what programming language that we use to build Remnode. So Remnode is mostly built with a language called JavaScript. This is the language that most websites on the browser are built in, and we use it both in the browser as well as on our server. For those who are sort of familiar with this, we actually use TypeScript, basically all TypeScript and React. We have a lot of sort of custom-built reactivity and internal component frameworks that we sort of share throughout the code base. And on the back end, we're using just sort of basic Express and Mongo. Our back end is pretty lightweight because everything sort of works in the client. So if you're excited about that stack, then that's another reason to join us as well. I see a question here about the our upcoming tutorial videos. Maddie, do you want to maybe chat about that?
Yeah, so as you guys know, Remnode has gone through a giant redesign, and it is a steep learning curve to Remnode. So I'm working closely with Mike right now actually to kind of develop a whole new playlist of tutorials, walkthroughs, use cases as much as possible, just to make Remnode as easy to use for everyone and just to show all the different possibilities there are. We're planning to kind of consolidate multiple playlists as well. Playlists meant for students, for researchers, for writers, all of the features that you might feel like you need in those different categories. We really just want to make this a system where we can all be Rem masters and just use this tool to the best of our ability. So we'll be rolling those out hopefully every week for the next few months. And as more features come in, more ideas come in, I'll be making more and posting them on YouTube. So definitely subscribe and you'll be notified when those come out.
So we had a offline question about different advanced queue features. We did mention this a little bit earlier, that there's a bunch on the space repetition side that we're excited about exploring or implementing. And I guess I just wanted to make sure we made it clear that that is something that we are continuing to invest in. Let's see this. So there is some discussion about Kanban boards in the chat. There's some cool custom CSS that I would encourage you to check out in the forums. Oh, I see someone already suggested that as well. That kind of thing will also hopefully become easier with the upcoming sort of extensions. So there's a question here about the removal of the hidden rem, hidden lines indicator. So that's basically been split in two. So one of the changes that we made in this update was separating out the toggling behavior from the hiding behavior. Before, these were sort of intertangled, where if I hid something, toggled it, collapsed, and then re-expanded it, the hide would have been forgotten. It would be reshown, and there was no way to sort of persistently save that. So because we separated that out, we had to go and sort of clean up the different parts of the UI there. So the replacement for the X hidden lines thing is in two places. So first, if you toggle the rem collapsed, the bullet point will have sort of a gray border around it that lets you indicate it as hidden children. Then if the rem is partially open, where some of its children are there, but others are hidden, there's now a new sort of eye symbol at the bottom that says something like three hidden. So I would check that out there. Definitely let us know if you find that confusing. So I see a question about changing flashcard interval settings. I would definitely check out our custom schedulers, such as the advanced Anki version. We do have some good functionality there. Definitely where we want to expand. Why is RemNode not well supported on an iPad yet? Something that we're working on. Building a rich text editor has a lot of different edge cases on different browsers, so we do care about it. It's just not super easy. There's another question about the update schedule. So we're going to be trying to return to sort of the or sort of at least the monthly release cycle. Hopefully we can get a bit faster than that as well, especially as the team continues to expand. Definitely not planning to go through and rebuild everything from the ground up again. I'm glad that we did it, but it was a little painful. There's questions about expanding the PDF reader. So that was something that honestly didn't get much love yet. We're going to be addressing that sort of as sort of the second rolling phase of this redesign that we're working on, both in terms of cleaning up the UI elements there, as well as sort of filing down the different rough edges and cleaning things up a bit more. There's a question about hiring. So yeah, we're definitely trying to hire people from a number of different roles. So the sort of core thing that we definitely need right now are just more software engineers. But there's a number of different roles as well. So we're also probably looking for another designer, some people to help us with copywriting, others who sort of deeply understand the concepts behind RemNode, both on the sort of research side as well as how we're trying to build things. So yep, as Dennis suggests, definitely just take a look at our career page.
And another important role is definitely the growth person or head of growth, however you want to call it, that has like some experience building a software startup or a software as a service startup. So if you know anybody that previously worked in such a role in a startup in kind of like a similar stage, maybe even in the educational or like productivity space, yeah, please let us know or mention this product to this person. This would really help us.
Cool. So, yep. Well, Harry. So I think that we've hopefully hit the majority of the questions here. I think we've hit all the ones on the list that we collected beforehand. We are going to continue to be answering questions throughout the day on Product Hunt, so definitely come and say hello to us there if you haven't done so so far. The hello is very appreciated. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Definitely looking forward to getting back to sort of the normal swing of things, interacting with all of you. And as always, thanks for the support. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everybody.